Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Same Old Arsenal podcast. Hope you're doing well. It's me hosting tonight, a rare treat for you. Just me and Amanda on the pod this evening, but I'm sure we'll just about get by. It makes it a lot easier when we're talking about an Arsenal win. But the Premier League is back. Arsenal are back. Lots to discuss and unpack, Amanda. But first of all, how good is it to have football back this weekend?
Oh, it was amazing. It was so cool. It was just like driving to the Emirates yesterday and then, I didn't go to the pub, I go to cafes. And it was lovely seeing everyone again, walking to the ground. Lovely. And Red Action had put something on Twitter about there's probably going to be Armageddon at the turnstiles, so get in early, which is what I did.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that first and foremost because I don't think everyone's going to want to hear about the turnstile scenario once again. But it was bad, wasn't it? I mean, there was a lot of build up to this. I mean, I got videos in my emails from Arsenal talk about how to download your digital pass, and it all seemed very well organized, very well arranged. I was at the AST event again, and it was pushed there. But we get there, and it's pandemonium. Like it was genuinely really, really bad. On that North Bank side where you're kind of walking to and from the Herbert Chapman statue, where it gets quite narrow. Yeah, it was actually quite scary just how packed it was. But thankfully we got through, it got sorted in the end. But it is a little bit, I'm not sure if embarrassing is the right word, but to have so much build up around it, only for it to be such a disaster on the first day and for kickoff to be delayed. I mean, it affects everyone from fans to staff to players. We got in okay, but it wasn't easy, was it?
No, I'm completely opposite. Because of that, I walked in. There was no one there. It was fine, but I did get in very early, which I didn't want to do because I never like to get in early. However, the Lionesses were playing. I wanted to go and see some friends, and I thought, "Do you know what? If it's going to be a problem, because what I thought was going to happen was people's phones wouldn't work, and there'd be all chaos and people queuing and stuff like that. And we must have had what about 10 emails from Arsenal this weekend, download, download, download. So we all knew what we had to do. Still not happy about it. Still want my season ticket. However, when we got in, everything was fine. But I was so then I went outside to my seat and I thought, it's pretty empty. It's Where is everyone? Is everyone watching the Lionesses? Is everyone drinking? What are they doing? And then it came up and I thought it said 13 minutes delayed because I just didn't think straight. They wouldn't have a 13-minute delay, would they? And my cousin went, "It's 30." I went, "I've been in here hours already. What do you mean? What's going on?" Bloody ticketing system. What we didn't know was the whole system went down. That's what I didn't know because the lady next to me got in about 20 minutes later and said to me, "It is pandemonium outside. It's dangerous." She said, and we weren't even told that they delayed the game. So, of course, then everyone was panicking they weren't going to get in. Um, as if you didn't know there was going to be an issue on day one, Cooks. As if you didn't know. I don't understand why we have to have it on our phones. There were people still trying to use tickets. I said, "You're not allowed to." She said, "We are." She said, "But it's not working." I went, "I'm going in." I got in fine. Did you get a problem then?
So I got there half an hour before, and I'm sure you'll know if you get to the game half an hour normally, you're in. You can walk straight in. But this time, yeah, it was just the queues. The queuing system at Arsenal has always been pretty. I think particularly last season. I'm not sure if it's the same where you sit, but particularly around the turnstile E sort of area, you get these snake windy queues, and you're never too sure. Am I queuing for E? Am I queuing for M? Am I queuing for P? So you're having to ask people, and these queues are just going like that. I mean, they must be about 100 foot long. Like it's crazy,
Yeah.
way longer than that, in fact. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to stay on this topic too long because obviously it isn't the most exciting. It is quite boring to be honest, but it is a very relevant issue. There are going to be people going to the games, like we discussed on the previous pod, who are going to be in their 70s, 80s, maybe even in their 90s that
Well,
aren't
look
going
at
to.
that below us. Look at that.
Yeah,
What happened?
exactly. I
Older
mean,
people.
older people, like I mean the amount of crowds was bad enough. Like it was hot yesterday as well being in there,
Yeah.
but not necessarily having a smartphone, not necessarily knowing how to download the software, because it is, as simple as it may be for us, for a lot of people, someone
Yeah.
like my dad, for example, wouldn't have a clue how to do it,
And
or they
mine.
might be quite daunted by it. I
Yeah.
get that it's to stop touts. Um, but is this the right way to be going about it? Because I feel like I do completely get that it's there to eradicate touts, but it feels like to me there should be an option where you either have physical card or it digital.
J- just, just don't. I mean, look, I am a lot older than you, and I know people think, "Oh, you're old. You've got to move with the times." Because I say that to my mum and dad, and they're in their 70s. My dad would not be able to do it. I'm telling you now, he can't even use his phone properly, and he's 77. So you've got a lot of older people that go. I don't think they've considered that. Although I did hear that they did issue 400 season tickets to people that can't use it. But again, as I said, the people in front of me couldn't get in. And I think because Red Action did that, I went to Cole, let's just go in, just in case my phone don't work. So I've never used it before. And it was perfectly fine. When I placed it in the right place, it was fine. But everyone around us was moaning, young and old. I just think sometimes you don't need to change what's not broken, but I think it is much harder for touts. However, when it did get to 5-1 or 10-1, I actually said to everyone around me, I think it's going to be further delayed, that it was still so empty. And then by 5-1, the whole ground was filled. So I looked round, but there were still pockets, James, in the clock end of a row of seats that weren't taken. There was a row of seats in the West Stand and a few in the North Bank. Who's got these seats then? You know, what's going on? What you're telling me? 12 people didn't turn up and didn't put it on ticket exchange. So I don't really understand. I know it obviously will stop predominantly touts, but then I don't know. It felt a bit of a different atmosphere, which I'm sure we'll get onto in a moment anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons why you might have seen that flood of people come in just before kickoff is that they literally opened up the gates. So forget the ticketing and putting it on a scanner. They just opened up the gates, show your ticket to the person there. So on another day, that could have been a really ugly scenario. Thankfully, it wasn't. But I'm not going to stay on this any longer. We're coming up to 10 minutes. I don't want to keep on it. But it was great to be
But a
back.
lot of people tweeted me today and said, if I'm in your chat room and I'm moaning about the tickets, it's me. And so is quite it's something people wanted to talk about. So we will move on now. Come on,
Yeah, I
Cook.
mean, if you're a match going fan, it is frustrating, but fingers crossed they've ironed out the kinks and it'll be fine for next time. I mean, they've got 2 weeks to sort it, so it better be. But it was great to be back at the Emirates. I thought the atmosphere was, I think it's fair to say it was mixed, but as soon as we got into the ground, it's the loudest I've heard North London forever. I thought the opening roar was just really, really good. The way the fans were behind the team was excellent. It did get a little bit subdued, but I mean, just to be back amongst the crowd, it was great, wasn't it?
It was, and I know it sounds funny, and I'm in total agreement with you again. The North London Forever, it felt like everyone was singing, and I don't know if you've seen the video of the man that lives outside the Emirates, and he took the audio sound from the flat. And it sounded amazing. It was beautiful. I retweeted that. Obviously, I had to post my video of me singing, which half of you have said they can't listen to because of my voice. But I loved it, and I won't do that every week. I love it. I love that we've got an anthem, James. I love the atmosphere for the first 10-15 minutes was rocking. And I thought to myself, the podcast I was on Tuesday with the Nottingham Forest guy, and I said to him, "You'll come to the Emirates and it'll be different for you. We will rock it." We did for 15 minutes, and then nothing. I kept going, is the North Bank going to sing? I was quite shocked. We tried to start some songs off at the East Stand Upper, which is a rarity, and we did, but we're not the big part of the stand, are we? Like the ground, I mean. But yeah, I just felt it was a bit flat. And I was talking to Carl about this before, and he was saying because the team were a bit flat, it just felt, we knew they were going to park a bus, didn't we, Cooks?
Yeah, I think it was obviously you can't blame Forest for coming and defending. I mean, that's what they're going to do. A point for them would have been a fantastic result on the opening day of the season. But you're not wrong. I mean, after that first 10, 15 minutes, the atmosphere did get very subdued. And I do think that was down to languid isn't the right words, but just I think Arsenal feeling themselves out, just trying to work out exactly where these players needed to be. I think you've got to remember and be very realistic. We're talking about the opening 20 minutes in a game where we've had a big change in our squad. Like we've had pretty much a quarter of it regenerated. We've had Havertz come in,
Mm.
Timber come in, Rice come in. As great as those signings are, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to instantaneously click on paper. So I think it was just a case of feeling ourselves out. Had we got a goal in the opening 5 minutes, I think the place would have been electric. And I think that's what a lot of people were hoping for. But it was just a case of, a little bit of that playing it from left to right, trying to create an opening. And it was a little bit dull at times. I don't think there's any getting away from that. But what did you make of the lineup? Because it wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting something similar to what we saw in the Community Shield. But I mean, he played a sort of 3-3-4 almost. It was incredibly attacking, but mixed opinions on whether it worked.
Um, well, it obviously worked because we won. However, it, I think I think having Trossard come off the bench is just awesome. Um, I'm not sure. I didn't when the team came out. I said to Carl, "So who's in defence and where's Party playing and who's in midfield and who's got Declan Rice?" I was really confused. I didn't really get what was happening. For me, I don't particularly like Thomas Partey at right back. I don't understand why he couldn't have played Tomiyasu from the start unless he wasn't fit. Obviously, for 90 minutes. Um, what do you, I don't know really. I mean, it worked. I don't often criticise. I'm not a manager and stuff, but I prefer my Thomas Partey in midfield.
Yeah, I know you're not gonna. I know you're not a fan of the tactical side of things, so I'll try not to keep on it too long. But I think the idea was okay on paper. He starts at right back, and then you've got Timber at left back, and Saliba and White as the middle two. I think for me, I was a bit disappointed that Gabriel didn't play because he played literally every single game last season, and I do see the logic. I definitely do, and I do think there is a place for it and a way that we can make it work. I think it's obvious. Like the idea is that when we're in possession, Partey just goes straight into midfield, and we have a back three of Timber, White, Saliba, which is fine. But as you see, when we get caught on transition, as we did for the Forest goal, that's where it
Yeah,
becomes a problem, and it does
yeah.
leave us very defensively vulnerable. And obviously, on paper, you look at that team and you think, wow, this could be a 3-4-5-0 blitzing, but game state doesn't always mean that that's necessarily going to happen. And if you are in a situation where you're having to defend a lot, it's not always the best way to play. And that's why we inevitably saw Gabriel come on. I don't know. I think it's something that can work.
Do you think Gabriel might not have been fit for 90 minutes? Because what I thought was he's not playing because he's injured. So when he came on, I was again confused, like, oh, he's not injured. So, but maybe he wanted to play a different game with Party inverting, and we've got we're going to get on to Jury and Timber, but Zinchenko out now. Timber, maybe I don't know. He's got this thing that he wants to try this at right back. Someone's just asked me in the chat, and I'll answer it. Hold on, sorry. Where was Adam Park said? There we go. Who would you have taken out for Party then, Amanda? I'll ask you that, James, because I know who I would, but I'll ask you.
Who would I have taken out for Partey? Um, that's a really tricky one. I think if it was me, I wouldn't have played both Havertz and Eddie. I would have taken out one of them, and I would have played a more traditional back four. But I do think this game was almost a test. It was an experiment almost because I do believe Arteta thinks we can play a 3-3-4 essentially in these games against the likes of Forest. I imagine we'll see something similar against the likes of Sheffield United at home where we can just be so ball dominant. And if we are, like you look at the amount of chances we created yesterday when we were in our ebb and flow, it
Mm.
does work. It does work, but it's in those scenarios where I wouldn't feel comfortable going to City away lined up the way we did yesterday. I think that would leave us very. I wouldn't really like to see us play that way against any team that's got good attacking prowess. United, Spurs, whoever it may be, like a big ish. Not putting Spurs in there, but you know what I mean. Like a big game at home, I wouldn't want to see us line up like that. I'd feel much more comfortable with a more fluid back four, a more settled back four that we're used to. I think when Zinchenko's back, the natural order should be restored, and you see White, Saliba, Gabriel, and then Zinchenko
Yeah,
because Zinchenko just does the inverting thing so naturally. It works so well, and I think that's when we'll see our more beautiful, elegant, charismatic, free flowing football come back. But at times we didn't see that yesterday, and I think that's got people a little bit worried. But it was a beautiful first goal we scored, and it did come just at the right time. About 20 minutes in. I mean, I know you wanted to talk about Martinelli, so we might as well discuss that now. I mean, it was Eddie that put the ball in the back of the net. Let's first of all credit him because, took it round his man first and foremost, then got the finish away. I don't want to say good fortune with the deflection. I mean, he definitely did enough to score that goal,
Yeah.
so hats off to Eddie. Very well done. But Martinelli with that unbelievable, outrageous, audacious piece of skill to set Eddie up. I mean, it summed up what was a brilliant first half for him.
Well, he was right. So I had a new person sitting next to me yesterday on the other side of me, and he was my age, so he's a bit of a hybrid boy, and we were just quickly chatting during the game. And I kept saying to him, "Why are they not getting the ball to Martinelli? They are constantly going to Saka, and Saka's got two men on him. Get it out to Martinelli. Get it wide. Get it wide." And I'm like, and he looked at me and he went, "Have you got a thing about Martinelli or something?" I said, "No, but look at him because obviously it's our side where Martinelli is." I'm like, "Just get the ball to him." I was like, I think I drove him a bit mad. And then all of a sudden, obviously, then he comes into the game and he's like on fire. But what he did there, I actually think I watched the replay about 5 times. It was Burkham-esque. It was meant as well because he's going to be asked that. And I just thought he was absolutely on fire, where everyone's focusing the Forest lot on Saka and Odegaard and pushing them out the game. Because if you listen to what Saka said, he said, I was constantly blocked, constantly. We just had to find a way through. Well, get it over to Martinelli and bang, we score. So, yeah, and I know all credit to Eddie. And Eddie, apparently, another thing I'd heard, had said to Mikel all week, put me in, put me in, put me in. I want to play. I want to play. I'm going to score. I'm going to score. So he's got that hunger. I think all of us just wish it would work for Eddie. You know, he's he's is he just good enough to get us through to where we need to win trophies and stuff like that? But Martinelli was my man of the first half. I'm not sure why Saka got man of the match. I mean, obviously the goal was just. We'll talk about that in a sec. I think I would have given it to Martinelli or our Declan.
Yeah, I think there were a lot. Although the performance at times was frustrating, um, there were a lot of positive players and a lot of positive performances. I thought. I don't think there was anyone in the team that I looked at and thought, "God, they're really having a stinker." I thought
No.
everyone at least put in a solid 6 out of 10. But I do actually want to stay on Eddie Nketiah because I think everyone slightly glossed over him this weekend. I mean, let's not forget he did put the ball in the back of the net. He's the one that opened the goal, and I thought, okay. It wasn't a performance that we're going to be talking about for years to come, but it was a good centre forwards performance. I thought he came in deep, he linked up, passed the ball around very neatly. He did what he had to do in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net. And it does seem that when he starts games, he does have a tendency for scoring. Now, I'm not going to pretend that he has the same attributes and link up play that maybe someone like Gabriel Jesus does, but if you're looking for someone that's going to be, I'm not assuming that he's happy to sit on the bench. I think we all saw in the All or Nothing documentary that he's definitely not. But someone that's going to be dedicated, professional, wait for his chance, take his chance. I think over a sustained period, that's where Eddie becomes a problem. Like if he was to start the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games, that's where you'd start to notice the weaknesses. But I think with that way that we played, where we had, the extra body and Havertz in there, it allowed for Eddie to not have to worry so much about the link up play and just do what he does
Mm,
best in terms of getting in
mm.
those positions. So I was pleased with his performance. Would you be starting him in the next one?
I don't think we have a choice, if I'm honest. With Jesus injured, I don't know when he's coming back. There's so many different rumours, so we just have to wait on that one. Um, I think if Jesus would have started yesterday, I think we would have torn him to pieces because he's so tenacious, isn't he? And hopefully he'll still be exactly the same as he was last season. I think we will start him. I think you'll see Tomiyasu. But you see, you mentioned Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, Ben White, Gabriel Saliba, yeah. So where does Jurien Timber fit in that? Obviously, if he wasn't injured, because you said Zinchenko over Timber.
Well, I think that's where it's going to be interesting because I don't think it's about player for player or taking one out, putting another in. I
Mm,
think in that scenario you could potentially see Saliba given a rest and Timber start on the right hand side. I think that's the beauty of having such versatile players, especially someone like Timber, who, let's not forget, plays his football on the right, and his best performances so far at Arsenal have come on the left. So it's just such a good situation to have someone like him, and God forbid his injury isn't too bad because he is so useful to this team. But I think, one of the reasons maybe things weren't flowing as freely as we want them to yesterday is because we didn't have Jesus and Zinchenko in. These were two players that were so pivotal to how we played such good football last season. And I think although Jesus was out, like you mentioned, he's just so dynamic and the way he links up with everyone, I do think we would have torn them to pieces. And if we had those two guys in, even Jesus on his own, we could have got by with Timber instead of Zinchenko, like we did in that first half. But I really do think that's part of the reason why things weren't as good as we want them to be, because we did have that, quite important core of our squad ripped out. But I think Zinchenko's not too far away. Fingers crossed he can be back for the next game. But yeah, I think it was looking good in that first half, and things got even better after that Eddie goal when the man of the moment, our star boy, he did what he's done for England quite a few times. He's not done it enough in an Arsenal shirt. Those shots from outside the box, absolutely outrageous. If he can add that to his game on a more regular basis, I mean, how do you defend that?
Well, you can't. You can't defend a world-class winger, and that's what he is, and I don't give a toss what anyone says to me in my working life, in my life. When people say to me, and I don't know, I said this on Twitter last night. I don't know if people are winding me up or not about Saka, because they often say to me, "Yeah, he's all right. He's quite good." And I literally, you know me, I buy it, and I'm like, "Well, you don't even know what you're talking about." I think maybe some of that is to do with that, but I think generally sometimes I do talk to people and they go, "Oh, Phil Foden's much better," and I'm like, "Yeah, you don't wash him every week. You haven't got a clue. You haven't got a clue. Why do you think there's 2 men on him? Why do you think he's chopped down every 5 seconds?" Um, but I do think I think he has added that to his game last season, but that shot, that is the one that he does so sublime when he cuts in and, oh my God, you just know. And the power, the goalkeeper, bless him, his mate, old Matt, isn't getting a look in. And it just is sublime. And he is sublime. You just can't say any more. Saka is, and as a human, what a human he is as well. What a top shelf human that boy is. We are so lucky, James. And you know, I say this often that we should really just enjoy the moment. A lot of people didn't enjoy moments last year when, okay, we didn't win it, but what a season we had. And he has started off as he finished. Well, actually, he started off better than he finished because he wasn't not that he went missing, but he didn't do so good in the last few games, did he? He wasn't really Saka as such. But just before you go next, we should say to everyone, yeah, get your questions in because we're going to answer them later in the second half of the show. And please hit like and subscribe and rate us an audio.
Got to get that plug in
Got to
there.
get it in.
Got to get it in. But you're right. Saka, for me, I think there's a lot of players at Arsenal now that I could call my favourite player. As soon as we signed Declan Rice, like he almost went right to the top. I think, again, culturally, another one that is perfect for us. But Saka is, he's the guy that I want the signed frame shirt of on my wall at some point
Yeah.
in the coming years. I mean, he is everything that Arsenal epitomises for me: attitude, professionalism, friendliness, just such a lovable guy, but also unbelievable footballer. I mean, I can't tell you, not that I'm a professional in any way, shape, or form, but I can't tell you how hard it is to do what he did yesterday. Like, that is a world class goal from what I think is, I'm not afraid to say, a world class player. I do think he is at that level now,
And
and I think he's one of these players that we've got in our squad that are very much approaching that world class level.
And this is what and welcome to the show, Deadstone. Saka is world class. I rated Lundberg and Perez, a lot of legends, but I'd say Saka is that level, just going to get better as he ages. Remember Perez, Henri, etc. were 24, not a kid, and he is. I mean, you just want him at your club for the next 10 years, don't you, James?
We've got him at our club. Well, okay, I'm speaking prematurely. We've got to win something with him because
Yeah,
he is too good to. For me, he is. Oh, he's got to be top three right wingers in Europe. I can't say fairer than that. I mean, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that is better than him on that right hand side. I mean, he reminds me so much, obviously in his own way, but he reminds me so much of P. Guy and Robin, and that's only because I watched Robin tear us to pieces so many times when we played Bayern Munich. But he is his own player. He's so good at what he does, and I was looking him up actually earlier, and it's so easy to forget that he's 21. He is
mm,
21 years old. He's
mm.
not even 22 yet. He's 22 next month. But like you say, if we can tie him down for the next 10 years, he's coming up to 30 appearances for England. If he carries on as he does, he's never had an injury. if he was to continue like this, he's going to end up, like on gigs level appearances for
Oh god,
Arsenal.
yeah.
Yeah, it'd be unbelievable if he could play into his 30s. I mean, getting way ahead of myself here, but he'll be. I really hope he's one of those centurions for England because he is good enough and he's got so much time on his side. He's only getting better, but we have to
He
win something with him.
He is, and I was talking about him, and I'm just going to welcome someone in the chat room. Adam was, hey Amanda, Adam from the Red Side of the Trent pod. Good game yesterday. So this is the podcast I was on last Tuesday that I've told you all about, and I told Adam that we'd win 3-1. I wasn't far off. Adam, did you have a problem with tickets? And also, what did you think of Saka's goal? Sorry to sort of mention it, but it'd be interesting to see what you thought of Bukayo Saka's goal. But welcome to the pod. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, welcome indeed, Adam. I hope you, well, I'm sure you did enjoy the game yesterday, despite not getting the result you wanted. But I have to say, Forest fans, I thought were excellent. I think their team is in pretty good shape, to be honest. That Iwane who came off the bench, who tore us apart at their stadium last year. I mean, I think he's a fantastic player. I think Alanga is a very good signing and obviously teed up their goal. But of course, this is an Arsenal podcast, so I'm not going to wax lyrical too much about Forest. So sorry about that, Adam.
To be
But
fair, though, he let me wax lyrical about my team, so he can have 2 minutes. That's fine.
I think he got about 20 seconds there, but you'll have to take it, Adam. I'm sorry, mate. That's all I can do. I don't know enough about Forest to say too much about them. But the second half started, and I mean, the big negative really was the injury to Timber. I mean, he went down in the first half for a fairly lengthy spell, but I'm not sure if this was related to that knock in the first half, but it was just where he was backpedaling and then just pulled up, and obviously I think he was the last man, so you don't pull up unless you really have to. And fair play as well to Forest for not continuing with play because I think they would have been in had they gone through there. But I don't want to say it looks a bad one, but it did look a bad one, didn't it?
Yeah, but it was weird how he went. It's like he jarred something, and we just and and then all of a sudden, opposite me, I could see the canoe, as I call it, getting ready,
Mm.
and I was like, "You are kidding me." You just couldn't write it with Arsenal. You just couldn't write it. And we don't know anything, and it's all gone a bit quiet, which is worrying, I think. But I suppose they have to have scans and assess it over a couple of days, um, and see what it is. But it don't look good. Obviously, he was carried off, went straight down the tunnel. It's just so upsetting. He played so well in the Charity Shield, and I was so looking forward to seeing him as much as Declan Rice. It's just gutting. But we wish you well, Mr. Timber. We really do. We want to see you back well soon.
Yeah, I think you've got to say Timber out of all three of our summer signings so far has been the best. I think he's also been the most affordable, but he has just been fantastic in every minute he's played, and he's such a versatile player. He's just so good. I think it would be a real shame if he's out for a lengthy period. If there's any sort of saving grace that I'm taking any slight bit of optimism for, is that he did post a few pictures after the game on social media. So, I mean, obviously he'll have a social media team looking after him, and I'm not going to read too much into that. But maybe that's an inclination that things aren't as bad as we necessarily
Well,
think they are.
Emerson, hello, Emerson. Hope you're well. James, it was related to the knock he took in the first half, and he's due an MIR scan tomorrow. So I suppose what tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll hear something. And just one last comment from Adam. We always make a noise at least. Glad AFTV took the banter well at least with a chance. Wish Johnson, hold on one second, sorry, took that chance to silence the library. That drum is crap, Amanda. No wonder it annoys you. I'm not saying a word. I get
We're
a
not
lot of
talking about the
abuse.
drum.
We're not talking about the drum,
We're
but
not talking
I
about the drum.
spoke about it on the podcast. Um, Moving on from that situation, thank you, Adam, for coming on. Um, yeah, Timber, we'll have to wait and see, won't we, James? We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, you would hope if it was anything really serious like an MCL or an ACL, he wouldn't have gone off, as comfortably as he did. Not that he went off, strutting his stuff, but he seemed to walk off pretty okay. So I'm taking a little bit of confidence that he won't be out for too long. I mean, if it's a dead leg, that'd be fantastic, and we might even see him back for the next game. But I think
Yeah.
I'm bracing myself for 2 months. That's me being super negative. But if Zinchenko comes back, then I don't think we're going to be in a bad situation. But it's just so annoying when you look at someone like Timber and you think, oh, what a player. And with the Champions League coming up,
Oh,
he'd have been great.
could be longer. 2 months is quite positive, to be honest. If it's one of the bad ones, it could be months and months.
6,
But
yeah, yeah.
let's not. Look, Adam
I
Park
I
is
d
saying
I
2
I d
months, don't say that. I think 2 months would be good.
yeah, I think 2 months is what I think would be a, you know, I wouldn't bite your hand off for it, but if that's the worst case scenario, then so be it. I mean, 6 months would be dreadful, but I personally I don't think it's an MCL or an ACL. So
Okay, cool.
I'm hoping he'll be, 2 months at the very most. But fingers crossed, it's a lot quicker than that. But that aside, the second half, I don't know about you, but a lot of people have said that it wasn't that great. They didn't particularly enjoy it that much. I think we got way too comfortable. I don't think that's necessarily a complacency issue. I think it's just a case of Forest backed off so much, and both teams got into a state of mind where they were just effectively seeing the game out, which is a very dangerous thing to do with half an hour left on the board. So it was yeah, it wasn't the most entertaining. And I think people around me were particularly getting frustrated because we didn't really create that much. I'm not sure if that Declan Rice opportunity where Turner made that fantastic save came when we were at 2-0 or 2-1. But if we'd have got three, I think that game would have been dead and buried. But I think it was interesting and quite telling that Arteta didn't want to make many changes. And I think what I've noticed from him during his entire tenure at Arsenal is that he has very much a lot of trust in that starting 11, and he doesn't really want to tinker with it unless he feels that, we have to chase a game. Bringing Smith Rowe or Vieira into the game state yesterday at 2-0, I think he was just a bit reluctant to do that because he could maybe tell that the game was maybe slightly getting away from us. But I mean, just before Forest scored, what were you making of that second half?
I It's annoying me that I'm just agreeing with everything you're saying tonight, James. I got honestly couldn't have put it better. I got a little bit bored. The atmosphere was flat. I felt that it was a bit complacent. We took our foot off the gas. And it's just so Arsenal to do this. It really is. Forget last season generally. It's just so Arsenal to do this. Um, and we need to go for it. I said the same as you. We get three, it's over. I wouldn't have worried. But 2-0 is always a very concerning scoreline because they get one and then they're up for it. Um, they did have a chance in the first half that I thought they should have scored. Um, but yeah, it got to the point where I was sitting there going, for a start, I didn't know what time it was going to end because I got all confused with this loads of extra time. The fact that we started late, I'm sitting there going, what time are we supposed to be finished? I don't even know. And then I looked at the clock and I thought, God, we're only like 15, 20 minutes in, and it wasn't a great second half. It really wasn't. And then sometimes when the other side score, it does give you that adrenaline. To, right, come on, Arsenal. And it sort of didn't. And I don't know because you can't say they're tired. So I don't know what happened. But you know for a fact that although Pep decides to do it on the cameras, Mikel Arteta, I doubt, would ever do that. And if for people that don't know, Pep pushed the camera away live on Friday night when he was having a go at Haaland, like you got to have a go at Haaland. Um, and I'm sure he had words with him because you can't take your foot off the gas. We're playing Forest. We take the foot off against City, we would lose about 6 or 7. Yeah, I just don't know why it was slow. It was a bit. It was frustrating as well. We should have got a few more. I mean, it wasn't awful, but it wasn't the best second half I've seen.
No, I think something that maybe would have made a bit of difference is bringing Trossard on that bit earlier,
Oh, it did, yeah.
because he was fantastic when he came on once again. And I feel quite bad for him because he should really be starting games. But that moment where he put the ball through a player's legs and then I was like, oh no,
Ran.
there's no way he's going to get that. But then he really turned the burners on. I had no idea he had that much pace in him. But yeah, that was a beautiful bit of skill from him. But the number of times he held the ball up, got out of really tight scenarios, I really think he should be starting the next game. He's too good to have on the bench, and he just provides another option. Obviously, it's hard to drop Martinelli, but we've got to find a way to get him into the team because he is that good. But I think bringing him on maybe 10, 15 minutes earlier would have brought us a bit more control, would have brought a bit more dynamism because him coming off the bench, he'd have wanted to go for it. So you'd have thought that would have spurned the other players on around him to go for it. But yeah, it wasn't to be. And we did concede that goal. And first of all, I was really frustrated that we didn't keep a clean sheet, because that's something we struggled with last season. Keeping clean sheets at the Emirates, we gave
Yeah.
away far too many sloppy goals. Credit to Forest, it is a really good counter attack, but it's a counter attack that should never be allowed to happen. It's our corner. Ilanga makes a fantastic run, basically down the entire left hand side, puts it on a plate for Iwanihi, who scored against us as he did last season. And then it makes that last 15 minutes, when you include the extra time, a little bit cagey. I don't think it was as nervy as it felt at the time. There was that chance they had, a couple of minutes after they initially scored, with I think it was Gibbs White who blazed it over the bar. But apart from that, I can't think of any other chances they had. And credit to Arsenal, I think, for seeing the game out professionally and doing it well. But it shouldn't have been allowed to get to that point where it was that nervy. But I don't want that to be misinterpreted as this being a worrying performance, or cause for concern, because I think it is very much just those teething problems.
Yeah.
And like I said in the preview for this show, game state doesn't always allow you to win matches 4-5-6-0, and Forest are no mugs. They're certainly not a bad side by any means. They're a side we beat 5-0 at the Emirates, but you got to remember, we were in our flow when we played them last time out at the stadium. And obviously this is the first game, 3 new signings coming in. The important thing was the 3 points. But I mean, Amanda, there has been a lot of discussion on social media, and a bit of, in my opinion, overreaction to the performance, because we haven't won it as convincingly as people would have liked. Are you worried at all?
No, not at all. It's first game of the season. I don't really remember the first game of last season, but
Well, it's funny.
generally,
Sorry, Amanda. It's funny you mentioned that, because we played Palace away last season. We won 2-0, but there was a huge portion of that game where Palace were really putting us up against it. I mean, Selhurst Park is never an easy place to go, but we could have easily drawn that game 1-1. And, we did well to keep a clean sheet. We had a very good performance, but it was Saka scoring a goal late on, an own goal. I think it was, took a massive deflection to make it 2-0. If it wasn't for that, I mean, that was also a very, very, very edgy game to start the season with.
so you've proved my point really that first game of the season's for us and never going to be a 5-6-0. We just need to get into our rhythm, get back to playing. Well, it's going to be like 100 minutes now, isn't it? We've got to make sure that we step up. Well, we play Palace away, don't we, next Monday, and we'll get to predictions soon. But it's tough, as you said. It's always tough going there. I, any team that goes there, I always think Palace have got a chance. So, what, Arsenal fans overreacting on social media? Never, never. Don't tell me podcasters were as well. Honestly, wonders will never cease. Um, I don't know. I just find the overreactions a little bit. I think the word is hyperbolic. I don't even know what it means, but I think I know what it means. Like they're just drama. I think I think social media is very strange, James. So you were born into the era of social media. When we were in the 80s, we didn't have social media. So I honestly, and I'll say this again, 2 games before we went to Anfield in '89, you would have had to come off Twitter because it would have just been unbearable. Um, so I don't really take much notice, to be honest. I think people are funny. I always try and take the positives out of the game. So Trossard didn't start, but when he came on, what a fantastic super sub he was. And I don't see any problem with that. I don't need to see a player for 90 minutes. Obviously, someone like Saka, you would start to go, why is he not playing 90 minutes, or Erdegaard? I'm not sure I want Martinelli off the pitch at the moment for anybody. So he's got to tinker with it, James. Um he's got to find his 11 that works. And maybe that was a little bit of a test yesterday.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, what we'll probably see are different lineups for different games. I really would expect to see more rotation quite heavily this season. We've still kind of got that core group. I mean, I think you'll often see players like Saka, Rice, Saliba being the core players that start. But I think any other position is pretty much up for debate. I think there's a lot of players that can be chopped, changed, interchanged, rotated without level of the squad decreasing too much. But there are two players that I want to talk about before we quickly go on to the questions. You were really pleased with Declan Rice's performance. I think again he's another one that I think a lot of people thought he had a fairly quiet game. I thought
Really?
well, I don't think he did anything, in my opinion, enigmatic. I thought he had a very solid game. But what I like about Rice compared to say Granit Xhaka is they're two completely different players, and I love both of them. But it's the little things with Declan Rice. Those moments where he tracks back, wins the ball. You didn't always get Granit Xhaka doing that. He did do it. Don't get me wrong, he definitely did. But it's that athleticism, that burst of pace. I think he's such a good addition to this team, and I think we're honestly seeing him at 40% of what his actual ability can be. I think there's so much more to come from him. But you liked his performance yesterday.
Yeah, strong, solid. He is captain material, but we have a captain, so I don't need to discuss that. I felt he was like, I don't know what like put it, enigmatic. I'm using all these words tonight. I hope they all fit in right. I just felt he had quite a few shots. He was there. He's like he's like a kid in a sweet shop at the moment. He still can't believe he's here, I don't think, playing for a big club. That's I mean, no disrespect to West Ham, obviously, but when he sung North London Forever. I mean, he was singing it, and then West Ham fans are having a go at him. He doesn't play for you anymore. You know, he can sing what he wants at an Arsenal song. He wasn't singing anything anti West Ham. I think it's just whatever. Um, I think he made um, some great defensive blocks. I thought he was brilliant. I really loved his performance, and I watched him quite a bit. I thought he was everywhere actually, but I'd like to see him and Party more together, which is why I'm a little bit more with. I was like, bring Tommy Asu on. You know, push Party up. I think one of the players that you need to talk about is Guy Havertz. Why is everyone going
He's
over the
next on my
top?
list. Yeah,
Oh,
he's definitely there.
yeah.
Don't worry. He was someone I want to discuss as well. But yeah, I mean, just touching very quickly on Declan Rice again. I mean, very unlucky not to score. Very solid performance. Still so much more to come from him. And like you say, he just gets it, doesn't he? Like singing along to North London Forever. I don't know if you stayed behind at the end, but
Yeah.
he was really rocking the North Bank, like
Yep.
geeing everyone up. And when you see Saka celebrate and score his goal, just Rice come up to him, grab his face, you can just hear him scream through the camera. I think he's loving it, and I really think he's going to propel us to the next level this season. But another player that I'm hoping is able to do that as well is Kai Havertz. I don't know why people are criticising his performance yesterday. I thought he was good. Like I thought he had another good game. I thought he was good in the Charity Shields. Thought he was good yesterday. Again, another one that was unfortunate not to score. I mean, he had that one-on-one, but great defending from Aurier to get back and stop him. That's a much harder chance to put away than it is. But I thought he made two very good opportunities. There were also a couple of moments where the ball was put into the box where I maybe would have liked to seen him on the end of it, but did what was asked of him, kept us ticking over. And if you look at his statistics, 88% pass completion in the final third, I think it was. I thought he had a very good game.
I did as well. I think this thing with Guy Havertz is there's a lot of people that didn't want him, and a lot of people are trying to be, see, told you, don't know what Arteta's doing. I don't think Arteta Edu Kroenke would spend what 60 odd million on a player that they had any doubts about. So if it's good enough for them, then I'm waiting to see. Thought he played all right. I don't think he's going to get 30 goals a season. Um, I think Simon's right. Sadly, we just have fans that it seems purely exist just to criticise, and I do feel that because when we came home, we always stayed to the end and we clapped everyone off, and Erdegaard passed us. It was lovely, and it was a good atmosphere. And you could see that Arsenal huddled together and felt they probably were saying we could have played better. You know, that sort of feeling. They weren't jumping for joy or anything. And I just feel Havertz has got to fit in. He's been playing at a very strange Chelsea club, isn't he, at the moment? And I actually don't know what the result was. Was it 1-1 in the end,
Yeah,
James? Right.
yeah.
So they're not. I can't think of the word. Anyway, not about them. But I just want to tell you some news I've just got through on my WhatsApp. Arteta says that Timber was taken off as a precaution. He wanted to stay on, and the medical team are happy with his knee.
Oh, well,
You
that's
could be right. Could be just a little dead leg.
Let's hope so. Let's certainly hope so. Fingers, toes, and any other part of my body that I can cross, I certainly will be because I want to see him back ASAP. But yeah, I think with Havertz, he's one of those guys that is very earthly in the sense that people will either love him or hate him. His body language obviously doesn't help. He does have that quite languid, lanky style of play. But that's just part of his game. And I've got no problems with his work rate. I thought his passing was
Mm,
excellent. He got himself
mm.
about. His first goal, I think, will be very important for us. But what I'm interested with Havertz is how many games is he actually going to start for us? Is he going to be a staple in this team? Because I think we could have quite easily started without him yesterday. We could have easily started with him as we did. But when Jesus is back, and if we are to go over midfield three in the long term of Partey, Odegaard, Rice, where will he necessarily get? I mean, he will get minutes with all the competitions we've got, but will he be a fixture in this team? Will he be like a Declan Rice or a Thomas Partey who you can't really take out of the side? That's where I'm interested to see where his future lies. But again, like Timber, one of these versatile, dynamic players, and I still think there's so much to come from him as there is from Declan Rice. But that's a beautiful little update on Yuri and
It
Timber that you've
wasn't
given me there.
so Phil Mac did Arteta message you, Mrs. Queen of the Media? No, it was Carl. So he could have put it in the chat room, but he messaged me on WhatsApp. And I think Melissa Broadbent hits it on the head with Kai. I don't think people realise just how much work Kai does off the ball. And I think that's mainly going to be his game. But you know what's lovely, James? I don't care who plays. We've got squad. I don't know what's wrong with my throat tonight. Squad depth. Isn't it beautiful that we're sitting there going, yeah, but we need Trossard to play. Yeah, but you can't take off Martinelli. Oh my God, it's just incredible. So if Saka has a quiet game, Odegaard had a quiet game, Martinelli has a quiet game, we've got some decent players now.
And look at our bench yesterday as well. I mean, you look at all the names on there. There's no academy players. They're all senior prospects, and well, prospects. I mean, they're all senior individuals. But you look at the players that we didn't have in the team: Zinchenko, Jesus, Tierney, Holding, and obviously, I don't know if you want to touch on Kieran Tierney because he is a favourite of the show for I think all three of us when Chris is here as well. It does look like he's going to be leaving, hence why he was omitted from the team yesterday. I'm not sure if the same can be said for Holding if he
Okay,
didn't
so
make the
we do
team.
have a question regarding
Shall we
this.
go into the questions?
I'm going to bring it in now to you. Should we sell Tierney by John Rowe? Thank you for your questions. Get them in now. I've got some starred, but more would be welcome.
Okay, so do you want to go first or shall I? No, okay,
No,
okay, I'll go
no,
first.
no. I mean, no. I wouldn't sell him.
No, you
Sorry.
wouldn't sell him.
No,
Okay, I
never.
would
Oh,
personally. I love Tierney. Don't get me wrong. That's not me saying that I don't want him at Arsenal. I absolutely do. But sad reality, no place for him in this team. Really, unfortunately, because as you saw yesterday, he would rather have Tomiyasu playing in that position. I'm not saying it's right. I think if we're going to play essentially a back three as we did yesterday, Tierney would have been absolutely fine in that position. Don't think Tommy actually did anything wrong. I think he was good for the time he was on the pitch. He was solid, but Tierney he's just so far down the pecking order now, and there's also not a lot of interest in him, which I think is a little bit concerning. I mean, Newcastle, I'm not sure if they'll be in for him after they blitzed Aston Villa 5-1. Do they really need him? They seem to have called his interest. Sociedad only want him on loan. So, I mean, we were talking about him being one of these guys that we could get 35, 40 million for. I don't think we will, sadly. And if a good enough offer comes in, I think the club are going to have their hands tied a little bit. And if it's over 20 million, I think they'll cash in. It's not what I want to see happen, but I think we need the money. And if it means that we're able to fund another attacking option, I think we're pretty stacked at fullback on both sides. As you can see, Timber can play there, Tom Yasser can play there, Kivior can play there, Zinchenko can play there. I think we're okay. So I would reluctantly sell.
I don't want him to go, but anyway. Right, let's go to your questions. Let's start at the top. Right, first of all, I just want to mention something. What I love when I come out of the ground and come on the way home is seeing everyone's videos and pictures and stuff like that, but none more than the global fans. And I want to say that there's a couple of LA Gooners that follow me, especially on my Facebook as well. Do you know they got up, I think, at 2 a.m. and were pictured at 4:30 a.m. watching the game? I'm telling
Sure.
you now, I'm telling you now, I wouldn't be doing it. Okay, I just wouldn't be. I'd have to record it, or I'm so old, record it on my video. You know, Sky Planet or whatever, and then watch it after. Their dedication. So anyone that ever criticises our global fans, you've got no idea what they have to do just to watch our match. And they're all geared up in their Arsenal kit. I see the Chicago Gooners, the LA Gooners. There's so many all over the states. And I just wanted to give them a mention because I'm all for them anyway. And I love watching when they go mental. And I saw I don't know if it was in Japan or Tokyo the other day, hundreds and hundreds of Arsenal fans watching the Charity Shield. James, we don't realise how lucky we are going. Do you know that? It's on everyone's bucket list around the world to get to an Arsenal game.
Yeah, I think for me, although I don't have the physical copy of it anymore, my Arsenal season ticket is my most valuable possession. Like I would, it would take something very special for me to, or it would take a nightmare scenario for me to have to give it up because I waited so long to get on the list. Um, well, to be first of all on the list and then to actually get the ticket in my hands. I
Yeah.
mean, it was such a. I know there are people that signed up to the waiting list even before me, and I was just in a really fortunate position at the time that I don't know. Yeah, I don't even remember how it happened, how I got my ticket. I just remember the Arsenal box office called me one day and were like, "Oh, we can see you're on the waiting list. We've got a ticket here. Do you want it?" I was like, "Yes." Like straight. I didn't even know where it was. Just like, "Yes, I have to take that." And I was still something like 10,000 on the waiting list. So God knows how that came about, but. No, I don't take it for granted. Like I say, it's the most valuable possession I've definitely got, and I would, go busky if I had to fund that season ticket. Not that anyone wants to see that, but it's certainly something that I just will do anything to find the money for each year because I couldn't give it up.
And it's interesting. Welcome to the show, Yamara. Say 4:30 a.m. game for me. Stayed up all night watching the World Cup games that started at midnight. I mean, we moan when it's an half 12 quick off and we got to leave at 9 in the morning. Honestly, I often think that and I think, oh, 9 a.m. I've got to be out. These people are up all night. Yamara, where are you from? Let us know and we'll put it up on the in the box. Some more questions. Just wanted to give them a little shout out. Right. Boy 10 Dio, welcome to the show. Should we buy another striker?
A lot easier said than done. The striker market right now is very, very dry. I know what you mean. I totally get what you're saying. We need, or we would like to have an alternative option to Jesus and Nketiah, someone that's a bit bigger, can hold the ball up. I think we potentially got that in Havertz. And then you've got to remember we've also got Trossard who can play there. So realistically, our four striker options are Jesus, Eddie, Havertz, Trossard. I think that's going to be ample options for the season ahead. Would I like another big, bulky striker to come in, hold the ball up, someone like Olivier Giroud? Yeah, I wouldn't say no. Is that there on the market? Well, unless you're looking at Vlahovic and Lukaku, no. And I don't think either of those two are going to happen. And if you're looking at genuine elite level strikers, the only ones I can think off the top of my head are Kolo Muani and Ozyman. And we're not going to get either of those because they'll cost over 100 million comfortably. So I would like it, but it's not going to happen.
I would. I think we need one as well. But I think James is right. I don't think there's enough strikers in the market for us, I'm
We need
afraid.
a versatile forward.
But
Kudus would be good.
Avon said, or Ivan, Tony, and Jan, we discussed that in the car on the way to the Emirates. Would you take Ivan, Tony in January if he was offered, young James?
Depends on the fee. I mean, obviously he's got this cloud hanging over him now. I mean, I personally wouldn't be too fussed about that.
No, would
Um,
I?
I think if it's around the 30-ish million mark, then I would be inclined to go sniffing around that. I don't think it would be. I still think, despite what's happened, Brentford will be trying to reintegrate him into the team, and I think they'll still command a very high fee for him. So I like the idea of it, but again, I think it's just one that's going to be beyond our means.
Okay. Thank you for your question. I would. I keep saying I would. Right, Carl Stark. Question: do you think Arsenal refusing to allow Patino to transfer, activating his contract extension, and loaning him out to Swansea is the right move?
I don't know if there were necessarily permanent suitors for him. He had a very hot and cold time at Blackpool, from what I understand. I don't think he was necessarily helped by the management in charge at the time, but he was in and out of the team at Blackpool. Had a couple of injuries to deal with. I think this loan to Swansea is actually very good for his career. He's still a very very young guy, so he's got time on his side. No need to rush things, but it works out well for all parties, I think, because he should play week in week out for Swansea, and come the end of the season, maybe he'll be in a position to actually be integrated into the Arsenal team. Or if he has played every game, had a great season, we can look to cash in. So I think it works out well. I think it's the right call.
Okay. Thank you for your question. Young Mr. Stark. Right. Right. Let's talk about this because we haven't really touched on the referees and all these new laws and or whatever the rules. Phil said, so I noticed that whilst players are getting booked for kicking the ball away, it's okay to pick up the ball and walk away with it and drop it. Madison did it 3 times yesterday. Madison did it at least 3 times. Interesting. Listen, as long as, and we discussed this, didn't we, in the preview last week, as long as there's consistency, they can bring in what rules they think is going to work best. It's when there's no consistency and referees don't book for what you think. I think we got booked for a throw in yesterday where the fact was he wasn't time wasting. He had no one to throw the ball to because Arsenal weren't moving. So he was getting frustrated with the team and he gets booked. I don't know who it was actually. Was it
White.
Saliba?
It was White.
Oh, Ben White. Yeah, yeah. Right in front of me. He looked at the ref and went, like, I'm not time wasting. I just don't have anyone to throw the ball to. I know that's not his issue, the referee, and we have to deal with that. So we've got to be very careful, James. And I'll tell you now, Arteta will be sent off about 14 times this season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're going to have to get used to these new rules. There were a couple of incidents in the Liverpool Chelsea game as well. I think Alexander Arnold was booked for something, but the players are going to have to get used to it because I don't think they're fully aware of the rules. But yeah, I think the time wasting one. Obviously it would have been completely different if Forest were drawing that game with 10 minutes to go. But I didn't think time wasting was much of an issue yesterday, and I think the allotted added time, I think, is only good for the game because it should stamp this out and see more free-flowing football.
But will it?
I hope so.
And
It
what happens
depends.
if you've got a train to catch and they're going to add on 15 minutes to the first half and 10 minutes to the next?
Well, what can you do? I mean, if there's time wasting, if there's a
So what's going to
serious
happen? So I'm going to give you a scenario. Most teams time wasted at our ground last season. Every single one, apart from City and one other. Right. What happens if we're 1-0 up and they've been time wasting? And he adds on 10 minutes and they go and win it 2-1.
well, I mean, it could happen. Like that.
Mhm.
That's how the cards are being dealt. I mean, there's no ideal scenario, is there? I mean, in that situation, you'd hope there's 0 added minutes on, but it's not going to happen, is it? So I think we've just got to suck it up. I can't.
Suck it up.
I think we're going to have to.
Okay, I've got so many questions. Adam Park wants to know which position would you buy in next given Raya had signed? Has he
I,
signed? I
I
don't even
think
know.
it's virtually done. I think
Right.
we might see an announcement tomorrow or Tuesday, but I would love to see us bring in a versatile forward, someone that can play on the flanks and up front. But honestly, if we didn't sign anyone else, I would be more than happy with how this window has gone.
Who? Sorry.
Just a versatile forward. I've got no names in mind, but if we could
Oh,
just
right.
bring in someone, that could help us out on the wings and up top, I think that'd be great.
I thought you said something else like that. Um, right. Okay. So Yamara comes from Oregon, which is part of America. Obviously in America, sorry. Thank you for telling us that. And the next question, Karen Russell. If on the pitch, would you have Vieira on
No,
penalties instead of Saka? I
no,
haven't even
no,
finished
no,
this one
no. I could just
because of
tell,
how
and
well he
it's a
takes
no,
them.
no, no,
I don't
no.
think he would, Karen. I don't think he would. No, I'd keep Saka to be honest as well. So I think we need to do that. Let's have a look. Everyone's telling me about what time they had to get up. I feel really bad moaning now. That to be up by 9 a.m. Right. John Rowe. So you could buy one more player. Who and where would you like to strengthen?
I can't give an actual name yet because I just don't know. I'm still kind of realizing that we signed Declan Rice, and I'm still trying to get my head around that. Like I say, I'm more than happy with how this window has gone. If we didn't sign anyone, Raya, Rice, Timber, and Havertz is a
Yeah.
9 out of 10 window. If we didn't sign anyone else, 9 out of 10. If you're going to make it a 10 out of 10, you get rid of the deadwoods that we need to get rid of. The likes of Rob Holding. There's a couple of others in there. Balogun, we need to get a good fee for him because he's not part of the team. Cedric, a couple of other guys. Pepe, he's still at the club. We need to get rid of these guys. If you get rid of those players and you're able to bring in a versatile forward, I don't know who that guy is, but if you're able to do that, that makes this window a 10 out of 10.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. Right. I, 00 Slice X, I think. Welcome to the show. Most likely I'm wrong, but it feels like Partey was played at right back just to accommodate Havertz in midfield. We lose so much when Partey is not at central midfield. Some fans just want the best team to be played. Do you agree with that?
Um, to an extent, but Partey only played about 10% of that game at right back. If you
Yeah.
watch his heat map, he was in midfield for basically the entire game. I think the thing that looked like a bit of a conundrum to me was it was a bit congested at times with Arsenal players, which you might say is no bad thing, but Erdegaard was very heavily out on the right hand side. I think if anyone was affected by Havertz coming in, it was him. Not that Erdegaard played badly, but it did affect his game. So there were a lot of bodies to get in on the top end of the pitch. And that can be a good thing when it's all working well and everyone's in synergy and you're trying to get a goal, but it doesn't always work because you've got players occupying each other's spaces. But no, I don't think it affected Partey. I thought he played his normal game. In transition, that's where it's a problem. As we saw on the goal, he's not a right back. I would much rather us line up as we did in the game against City with a more natural back four. And then that midfield three of Rice, Partey, Odegaard. I think that's got the foundations of a brilliant midfield, a world-class midfield. But in answer to the question, I don't think Partey's game was affected.
Okay. Thank you for your question. Boy Tendio is back with another good question. How likely are we to see Balogun at a rival club in 4+ years' time?
Well, we might see him, in
4 months, let
4
alone
weeks'
four
time.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like who knows what can happen? Like we're entering into that kind of crazy period of the transfer window now. There's like 3 weeks to go. When there's a week to go and players still haven't got their moves. If Balogun's still at the club, if other clubs haven't signed striker targets, he could go to a rival. I don't quite know who off the top of my head, but Spurs need a striker. He's not going to go there, but the crazier things have happened. He won't go to Spurs, but I wouldn't be surprised if West Ham came in for him, which would be very interesting. But I do think he'll go abroad. I think the Serie A is made for him. But I think there's a very high opportunity that he will return to the Premier League at some point. But we either have to insert a very good sell-on clause or a buyback option. I think the buyback option would be great for us, but I think his attitude is the sticking point for me. Not that I know him personally, but from what I've seen of what he's done on social media and things like that, and there's obviously a reason he's not getting in the team. I don't think he's got a future at Arsenal. So we just need to get our maximum value for him now and in the future.
No, I agree. Shame. I'd like to have seen him, but I don't think it's going to work. Deadstone says, who will be the Arsenal standout player this season?
I mean, if he's not got a big injury, then it's going to be Timber. I think. If he's continues to play as he has done in these past couple of games, I think he'll play a lot more football than people anticipated. I really think he could be a standout player.
Okay, for me, I think Martinelli this year actually could be just the what he did yesterday was just awesome. Karen Russell said, "Who misses out when Jesus comes back?"
If we're talking about yesterday, it'd be Eddie.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. We've done over an hour, but we need to just talk about Palace, and we've got one regarding this from Nigel. Hi, Nigel. Crystal Palace had a away win against Sheffield United yesterday. It will be a tough game next Monday, especially it being at Selhurst Park. So we can do our predictions now, James. So let me tell you what we predicted because I've got my book, my podcast book. It's like an exercise book, like I'm at school. But it's really handy because now I can't forget anything. So Albert went 3-1, James went 4-0, I went 3-1, Chris went 2-0, and you went 4-0. So Chris at 2-0 and me and Albert at 3-1, pretty much nearish, I suppose. What are we going to do for Palace? What do you fancy next Monday night? So everybody in the chat room, get your predictions ready. And here we go. We're already started. Crystal Palace 1, Arsenal 2. 2-1 to the Arsenal. That's the second one. What do you reckon, young Cooks?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one, especially with Hodgson back there. I mean, it's never been an easy game when we've
Yeah.
gone there with him in charge. And if you saw the highlights on Match of the Day yesterday, he really had some fire in his belly. So great to see at his age, by the way. Like, what a fantastic guy! But I really hope it's a comfortable game. I don't think it will be. Selhurst Park will be absolutely rocking. I think this will be very tight, very cagey. I'm going to go 1-0 Arsenal.
Okay, I'm writing that down, James. So it'd be 0-1. I've gone 2-0. I hope it's not. I hope I'm wrong. I know a few people have agreed with me in the chat, but most people are going for wins. It's tough place. Under the lights on a Monday evening, them at home, tough place. And it depends if Timber's back as well, I suppose. So I've gone 2-0. We don't know what Chris has gone for. Did ask him, but I think he's out tonight, so not able to get to message me and tell me what. But he can tell us in the week, and I'll write it in my book.
Perfect. And I think that concludes the podcast, doesn't it?
I think it does. Yeah. So everybody, we are back because we're playing Monday night. We can't obviously do a podcast Sunday night because we don't have crystal balls. We're back Tuesday evening, the night after Crystal Palace at 7:30. 3 of us will be on, and yeah, please hit the like button. Please leave your comments on YouTube. Please rate us on all of the audio platforms. Please tell all your friends about our podcast as well, because we love interacting with you. Especially a big shout out to the global fans. Honestly, just keep doing what you're doing and supporting Arsenal around the world.
Lovely. Yeah. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. And yeah, up the Arsenal.
Up the Arsenal. I don't say that, James. You say up the Arsenal. I say always Arsenal. Good night, everyone.